So in this example, let's create a mortgage calculator, something that will allow you to see what your monthly payments are and how long it takes to pay off your loan. Now there is already in the templates here under personal finance a mortgage calculator here, and that's a really nice example of using some multiple tables and a chart. But what it doesn't have is what happens if you apply extra principal every month to the payments. So we're going to create our own from scratch and use the blank template to start off with. And then we'll have the added bonus feature of being able to set an amount every month. So we'll start off here with a table, and the table is going to have all the basics, because when you set up a mortgage you have all these basic things like how much the mortgage is for, what the rate is, and all of that. So let's get rid of the header column here and set up some things. Let's do the start amount for the loan, and we'll say it's going to be 400,000. Now I'm going to go to cell, set the format to currency, and also turn on the thousand separator so we could see easily that's 400,000. Next we're going to have the interest rate. And let's say that's 4%. Now I'm going to enter in 4 and then the percent symbol. And notice when I select the cell, it shows the actual value is 0.04, which is 4%. And by typing 4%, the automatic data format here is going to keep it as a percent, like this. The value will be the value that I want. I could have typed 0.04 and then gone to data format and played around with getting it to show percent. But it made it really easy for me just by typing those two characters. Now, number of months. So let's say this is a 30-year mortgage. Now, how many months in 30 years? Well, I could do the math, or I could just do a formula here. I'm going to hit the equals key and do a formula. Formulas do not have to have another cell reference in them. You can just do numbers in them. So I can say, let's see, 30 years times 12 months. And it's going to calculate that for me. You can see the value is still a formula, 30 times 12, which is handy because it'll be easy for me to change that. If I'm going to change it to 15 year, I can do 15 times 12. Now let's do a payment amount. So what's the payment going to be like for this mortgage? So this is a complex calculation. And I'm no expert here, but I don't have to be because there is a function for this. So I'm going to hit the equals key. I'm going to go into functions here, and I'm going to look in financial functions. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. One of those is PMT, returns the fixed periodic payment for a loan or annuity. So I'm going to use that, PMP. So I'll type it, PMP. And the parameters here are the periodic rate. Okay, so that is this 4%, but it's actually not 4%. 4% is the annual rate. So I'm going to divide that by 12. And notice I can do a little calculation inside of a function there like that. Then it's going to be the number of periods, so it'll be the number of months. Then next I've got the present value, so 400,000. From there, the future value will be 0 when it gets down to nothing. And there's another function for when due, but I don't need to enter that in. I can use the default for that. And I'll get a result here of negative $1,909.66. Now, of course, it's negative because it's subtracting from this. I can make it positive by going into the formula here and putting a little negative sign in front, basically multiplying it by negative 1. Now I'm going to have another bit of information, an additional payment amount. And we'll start that off at 0. I'll also set that to be a currency there like that. So now I have my basics here. I'll shrink this down. This is all this table is going to be. It's this basic stuff, the settings, if you would, for this calculation. So I'll call this settings. And we've got the basics. Now let's go and try to figure out how we can calculate where the amount due is for every month after each payment. So let's create another table. And we'll have that table underneath here. And This table will represent all the monthly payments. We'll shrink it down and we'll start to add some headers here. So this will be the month number and then the principal. So you can watch that decrease, the interest, and the balance. We don't actually need the last one there. So we can start off, we know the first month is month number 1. So we've got the principal and the interest to calculate for each month. So the interest is actually going to be the starting amount times the interest rate divided by 12, since 12 months in a year. And we could see here we got $1,333.33. That's how much is being paid in interest. So the payment every month is going to be that amount. So the principal being paid off would be equal to the payment amount minus the interest. So that's how much principal is being paid off. So the balance remaining would be the starting amount minus how much is paid in principal there. So this is the amount remaining after the first month. So we have our initial month there. Now we want to have another month. Let's increase the number of rows by 1 by dragging this handle down. Now every time I do that, I want there to be the new month in here automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be a formula equals the month above plus 1. Okay. Now we need to calculate the principal, interest, and balance for this. So to calculate the interest before, we took the starting amount and the interest rate. We don't want to take the starting amount anymore. We want to take the balance from the previous row. And we want to multiply it by the interest rate. Now the interest rate is up here in the settings. So I want to make sure that I preserve row and preserve column for that, because I don't want the cell to change. As each row gets added, I don't want this to move. So that's important. And then I'll divide by 12 like before. There we go, divide by 12. So then I get the new interest rate, which is a little lower than the previous month, which makes sense. So now the principal amount paid before that was equal to the payment minus the interest. We want to do that again, equals payment, but we want to make sure we also set that to be absolute, and then minus the interest on the current row. So it's basically the same thing as here. I've just made sure this time to set the numbers to absolute so that this payment doesn't move. And now the balance, this balance before took the initial amount and subtracted the principal, but instead we're going to take the amount of the row above it and subtract the principal from that. And we get the new balance, which has gone down slightly. Now I'm going to expand by one more row, and what's going to happen is, you can see it would be nice if it would just automatically know to add these formulas in here, but because this is different than this and this is different than that, it's not sure what to do. I'm going to copy all of this, paste it in here, and you can see now I get the third month, and everything continues to evolve as before. So now when I expand, it recognizes that these two rows are the same. This formula's in here and the formula's in here are the same, so as I expand, it will continue to do that. So I can see as each month goes, the principal, the interest, and the balance all change. Now let's continue to add more, because we want to get to the point where the balance is 0. So I continue to add, and we know it's going to take 3 years to pay off. So as I see, if I stop here at 274, you can see, yeah, that balance is getting smaller, but it's not gone yet. We'll continue to go. And finally here we see it hit 0 and go negative, which it would normally go negative. This 0 means the loan has been paid off. And that happens in row 361, which is month 360. It's a 3-year mortgage after all. So we can feel good that all our calculations are working out perfectly, that indeed your principal amount would increase, your interest amount decreases, and the balance decreases and gets to zero at exactly the right time. Now the whole idea here is we want to be able to apply additional payments, additional principal payment for each month. So let's go all the way back up to the top, and we had this little additional payment amount here. Let's add another column in here. I'm going to go and add a column right there, and I'll call this additional principal payment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this equal to the value in there. And I'm going to set this to be absolute, so it's only looking at that exact cell. I'll copy and paste it starting here, all the way down into here. So it's going to get that 0 for everything. But if I change the amount, let's do $100. You see the 100 changes for all of those. Great. Now we need to change the balance formula. In this first one, we had something a little different. We took the starting amount, we subtracted the principal. We want to subtract the additional principal as well, so we'll subtract this. And then we had a different formula in row 2. That was taking the previous balance, subtracting the principal. We want to subtract the additional principal as well for that. Now this second formula here, that was something used throughout all of the rest of these cells. We'll select all of them and we'll paste that in. Now we can look and see where things hit 0 or go beyond it. We could see that right here at week 327 we have less than a regular payment left. So we would finish off in week 328 with a small additional payment. That cuts things down quite a bit from 360. In addition, we could continue to test things by saying, well, what if it was $200 a month extra? $200 a month extra turns things around in week 301. So cuts an entire 60 months, cuts 5 years off of the mortgage. The cool thing about doing it this way, having this 200 number repeat here, instead of actually using the 200 number there in the formula, is I could do something like, let's say let's get to the 5th week or 5th month here. And let's say the 5th month, instead of using the $200 there from there, let's say I get a little bit of a windfall bonus at work, and I decide to put $5,000 extra that particular month. So I put that there. And that $5,000 is going to have a significant difference because it's so early on. And I'll see it goes from week 301 to 285, 286. So putting $5,000 takes more than a whole year off of the mortgage, just that one-time $5,000 payment. So you could use this to calculate basically, okay, standard $200 a month extra, and then every once in a while when you could throw more money in, you could add it in here and see exactly when you're going to finish up your mortgage. So we've got a single table up here that just holds some data in it. We've got this table here which we can keep adding rows to, and it performs calculations cascading through the entire thing for each row. And besides the first row here, row number 2, all of the rest are using the same formulas. So it's pretty easy to see where everything's getting from. You can click here and see it's taking those values. That's taking that value. That's taking the interest rate there, and this value. That's taking the payment amount. So you can see how this works and make adjustments to things to give you a valuable result here that you can use in real life.